Welcome, survivors, seekers, and thrivers. I'm your host, Shari Lee Roberts, psychic medium, energy healer, and living proof that you can transform your pain into power. Each episode, we dive into trauma healing, developing your intuitive gifts, and reclaiming your life. Get ready for real stories, deep wisdom, and a little laughter along the way.
Hello, and thank you for being here with me and my guest, Jennifer Chase. She and I have such similar stories that we literally could be sisters from different misters. Childhood abuse, alcoholic parent, and she found her way through it and is now helping others who have gone through similar things down that awful bad hole. I have condensed all of that, but today Jennifer and I are going to delve into her story and what she is doing today to help others. Jennifer, welcome, and girl, thank you for being here. What a pleasure.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here today. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Awesome. Yes, we talked briefly before recording. I said your Siberian team is here and they're going to guide this conversation so that the people who hear it will get what they need to from it.
Yeah.
You also said when asked, how are you? Your partial response was, well, it's the holidays.
Yeah.
So, there are triggers and
Yeah.
a lot happening. I want to end up talking about that,
hmm
but let's go back to your younger days, childhood, what did holidays look like?
Yeah, so that's a crazy question.
I
Just to give
know.
you a little bit of background, I come from generations of addictions. So, as far as I've been able to look back, I have four generations on my mom's side and four generations on my dad's side. So, I'm the great granddaughter of an alcoholic. I'm a great granddaughter of an alcoholic. I'm the granddaughter of, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, I think holidays were always pretty chaotic. You couldn't really count on, we had a lot of tradition. So one of the things about my family was that from the outside looking in, we had it all, right? My dad was a pretty successful businessman. My grandparents were very affluent in the community that they lived. I had, houses on the lake, vacation houses where we went all, in the summertime. I the week that I had chicken pox, I spent in Wrigley Field watching the Cubbies play. Like, I had what you would have thought. Yeah. I think about that now. I'm like, I wonder how many people I gave chicken pox to, but
Yeah.
right, like I had this life where most people looking at it would think that I had it all, right? I had it all. And yet what was going on behind closed doors was the opposite of having it all. And so, Christmases were full of traditions and parties and gifts and, all of the things that you would think a wonderful Christmas would look like. But unfortunately, with as much addiction as I was raised in, I'm part of a statistic that says one out of every four little girl and one out of every six little boy that is kind of raised in that dynamic is being sexually abused. And I was being sexually abused by my mom's dad. So, so there was holidays when you talk about it, it's like, my little body didn't know what was going on, but if you've ever read the book, Your Body Keeps the Score, I think that's the name of it. But basically, like my little body didn't know how to articulate what was going on, but I definitely felt, right? I definitely had feelings inside of me. And so it was an interesting time because the feelings didn't feel um it didn't feel congruent with what I should be thinking and
Yeah.
feeling. Like I
Yeah.
should be enjoying
Yeah.
this. I should be appreciative. I should be all of these things. And yet there was something inside of me. My dad was the family that I grew up with. I'm the youngest of three children. My sister is 5 years older than me, and my brother is three. And they had a great connection with each other, but not so much with me. So I was kind of the third wheel out on that deal. My mom, I don't know if you or any of your listeners can like feel this, but like if my mom spoke English, I spoke Chinese,
Yeah.
right? Like we never felt the same way. We never communicate the same way. Even still to today, right? It's that relationship is you have to work at it constantly because we just pass in the night somehow. Like we're just not each other's people. Um,
Yeah.
and my dad was my person. Like my dad, for sure, without a doubt, was my guy. But my dad was an alcoholic. And so, again, you never quite knew what you were going to get when he'd walk in the
Yeah.
door at night, whether he was going to be my guy or whether he was going to be angry and sometimes emotionally or physically abusive. Like you just never knew. And so my childhood was mostly just an unregulated nervous system, trying to
Yeah.
figure out where I belong, being in fight or flight, trying to protect myself, trying to stand up for myself, like all, just the chaos. And I think the holidays put that on steroids.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, there are multiple things to unpack there. I'm being guided to ask you if you're Okay. Talking about the sexual abuse when it began, if and when you told someone, and when it ended.
Yeah. So, uh, this is not unlike a lot of people
No.
that suffer from abuse as a child. My memories are fleeting, right? I have memories of things like carpet and bed sheets, but I struggle with remembering super detailed memories of
Yeah.
my experience. I have a
Yeah.
cousin that's 9 years older than me, does a better job of filling in some of the gaps. But
Yeah.
my little brain, I think, protected me from a lot of that. But to the best of my ability, I was probably about 3 or 4 years old when it started. I remember very distinctly at the age of 4 telling my mom that I had this funny feeling inside of me. Right, that was the little 4-year-old trying to articulate that something was going
Yeah.
on. And my
Yeah.
mom, because my mom was also, she didn't realize this at the time, but we've done some work as a family. My mom also experienced some things growing up with my grandfather. When I shared with her that I had this funny feeling, she says to me, "Well, everybody has that. Like that's just normal." Um, and so,
Uh,
uh, you know, that I think, there are some other memory or other circumstances that happened during that same frame of, that same time frame. So I can pretty sure tell you that it began around the 3 or 4 age. And I'm not sure when it ended. My guess is around first or second grade, somewhere around there. I am a very outspoken, have been my whole life kind of girl. My mom has memories of her hearing me yell at him, like go away kind of yelling at him when I was pretty young. And so I don't think that I was an easy one to kind of um, cultivate or groom,
yeah.
although there was obviously a lot of grooming going on. I think at some point it was just like, this one is not going to be compliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And to answer the second half of that question, uh, I, I, again, this is so typical for so many of us that have experienced this. I suppressed it for a very, very, very long time, right?
Yep.
Um, my grandfather was the patriarch of our family. Everybody loved him. And people had his portrait hung in their home. Like he was the guy, right? And so there was this suppression of like that something happened to me, but it was just, I mean, the brain does amazing things when they're
Yeah.
gone through trauma. It
Yeah.
wasn't until I was about 16 or 17 that I started to put some pieces together. Um, but I can say this, it was not welcomed information for my family. It wasn't like, oh, tell me what happened. It was more like, I think you're making this up. And not from a like spiteful or yucky place, but just I think everybody was in the place of exactly what I was experiencing, which was this confusion about who we had put this man up to be on the pedestal and what was coming out of my mouth about what happened to me. And so it was really when my cousin, who's 9 years older than me, um, had a situation occur years later where she actually reverted into some of the memories that she had as a child and started to communicate some of the things that had happened to her, that
Yeah.
kind of everybody in the family was like, oh, Jennifer wasn't fibbing, right? Jennifer was telling the story, and that these things had in fact happened. we talk about the generations of addiction in my home. My grandfather was a twin, so he had a twin brother, and both of those men abused children. So you have to assume that they were also abused, right? Like
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be an easy connection to make. And so again, not only do I have generations of addiction in my home, but I have this generational sexual abuse thing that was happening as well.
How many of you were abused by him, and how did it happen? I mean, how? Okay, so was it a family holiday get together? Grandpa comes over. Tell us
Yeah. So
what
it's
to.
interesting. Yeah, so it's interesting as my family has healed from this that we're unpiling things as we go along on this deal. Um, how many children did he abuse? I mean, a lot. My mom has memories of obviously things that have happened to her in her childhood, but she also has memories of things like, you know, her little family friend next door packed up and moved in the middle of the night. Just, random things that would
Yeah,
suggest that, and I don't know for sure, I'm speculating, but that's not normal behavior to wake up and some family snuck out in the middle of the night. Again,
yeah,
my grandfather was a very affluent person in the community. And so, it's not, especially not in that time, it's
yeah,
not something that we talk about. So I think that there was a lot of potential victims to him. And the way that it went, I mean, again, I share this because I just pray that there is a listener listening today that has felt alone and isolated, and maybe they feel crazy because I felt crazy a lot of my life, right?
yeah.
um, the way that it happened in my family, so because my dad, for his work, we have lived all over the world. So I was actually born in London, England, and we have lived in most, like, all over the country. And so we weren't necessarily located where my grandfather lived. And so he would come and visit all the time, right? And in my home, um, we did this thing called sus prizes, which was he would go and buy a bunch of like cheese and meat and little snacks, and we would go down and have this special time with him, while with what was called sus prizes. The other thing that happened was, uh, I mean, and this sounds awful, but it just is what happened in my family because it was normalized because people were groomed. I would regularly take baths with him when he was in town,
Uh-huh.
um, and do those things. And again, I don't say that in like saying anything bad about my parents. Like, everybody was groomed, right?
Yeah,
Um, everybody, and I say to my mom, I've said to both my parents before my dad passed, I was like, does that feel normal? Is that something that you would do with your grandchildren? And he was like, absolutely not. But my mom was like, that was normal in my world, right? Like that. I just didn't even know. And so I don't say that as like looking down upon my parents. I think that just speaks to the power of grooming, and, and then speaks to the level of shame that comes along with it. Because when you're out of it and you look back and you're like, yeah, that should have been obvious to me, right? That
yeah,
should have been something with critical thinking I should have thought about. But the power of grooming and the power of, the generational trauma that creates sort of lack of boundaries, or what normal feels like, can be a really, really powerful dynamic within a family. And so there were a lot of opportunities where he, um, you know, did a lot of things that I've spent my entire life digging out of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So it, not it, the sexual abuse stopped. How did it with you? Because he kept going, I
Yeah.
assume.
Well, this is the interesting thing because that time of my life, I wasn't cognizant or in the moment thinking about it. But this is what I've sort of now understand is that he liked prepubescent girls, little girls, right? As
Okay.
disgusting as this sounds saying out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
He liked little girls. And so as we got older, I
Eve.
think that stopped simply because of our age. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened after. I was the youngest again, so I was the last one sort of available in that sense. Um, I don't know if he aged out of being a predator. I'm not sure how that happened because this really all came to fruition after he had passed. And so obviously I never got the opportunity to confront him or to have that conversation. And because it was so hidden, woven in the secrets of my home, I'm not sure. I can say this with pretty good certainty. There were women around him. So I had my grandmother who was kind of a sickly woman, who he kind of she was very submissive to him, if you will. But then I had my Aunt Dorothy, who was a very strong-willed woman who was more like my grandma. Um, and I'm pretty confident that all of those women knew what was going on in our family. Um, I'm pretty confident that for sure my grandmother knew that my mom had been abused, and I'm pretty certain that my Aunt Dorothy knew of the dynamic that was going on as well. And so, there again, we're talking about just, I don't even know how to describe it to somebody that doesn't understand it, but it's just this infiltration of darkness,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
grooming and greed and all just even older generations of how women were treated, all of the different things that kind of played into this. And so it was definitely a nobody until my generation, and I'm speaking about my cousin and I. Not one person before this even spoke one word about what was going on.
And that is my experience, and that of millions of others.
Yeah.
So it's going and people know it's happening, and yet they are or did turn a blind eye. Let's bring this into today. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
you and I, being hyper vigilant, are not allowing our children to be subjected to any suspect family or otherwise. Okay, we're doing our best. But there are people who have not endured what we have, yet they're smart enough or intuitive enough to know, oh my God, I think so when so were this children are being abused, but they're not confident enough in themselves to do anything about it. Actually, I want to share even though I have been abused, never sexually. Thank God I am lucky. I'm one of the minority that didn't endure that. I was in a luxury hotel on New Year's Eve or the day before in Detroit, Michigan. And my friend was in the casino. I had stepped out and I literally witnessed a group of 6 to 7 children being led by a child no more than 12, guiding those kids through this area, telling them, be quiet, follow me, let's go, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I did not know at that time those children were being trafficked. And that haunts me to this day. I bring it up because even though something, my intuition was screaming, do something, call, do something. I didn't. I failed those little humans horribly. Some of it was when I got anxious at that time. I literally could not speak. But
Mm.
there are ways writing whatever, okay, typing it in your phone. So back to us and to people who come across this, who may be their son or daughter's classmate isn't quite right. There's obviously something wrong. There doesn't have to be bruising. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the least of our problems. It's internal. That's horrible and damaging. What do you say to people in those situations who see it, feel it, but
Yeah.
are afraid?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because, a couple of things. I'm listening to you tell your story, and I'm a quote girl. I've got a whole wall of quotes back here.
Yeah.
And the quote I was thinking about when you were sharing is a quote by Maya Angelou, which says, "I do the very best until I know better. And when I know better, I do better." Right? And I have to live by that quote in the sense that shame can be paralyzing to me, right? What I should have known, what I didn't do. This can go back to the fact that I was an addict for 14 years, and then my son also turned into an addict, using the substance that I had in our house, right? So there's all these things about I can be so hard on myself and miss the grace piece. And so when you're sharing, I'm like, look, we do the very best that we can with what we know, but when we know better, we must do better. And the
Yes.
second half of that is, we must do better, takes a tremendous amount of courage. Courage isn't the absence of faith, or sorry, the absence of fear. It's what do I do in midst of the fear? Like, how do I deal with fear? That's where courage comes in. I know that as a society, we aren't good at this. We aren't good at protecting children. We aren't good of standing up to men. We aren't good of specifically standing up to men in power. Right? Like, there's a lot of things that come into, if we are
Yeah.
actually going to start protecting children, it's going to have to look a lot different than it looks today. Um, and hear this. I have been around enough men in power, and actually enough men that abuse children, unfortunately, to know um, they they are going to puff their chest, right? They are going to
Yeah.
say and do what they need to say and do to make you feel small, to get you to sit down, to keep status quo, to be able to continue to live the lifestyle that they have created, to continue to groom other people. And so there are going to be periods of time, if you want to protect children, where you're going to feel like you are on an island by yourself. You may even feel like you're an island by yourself, and maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe this didn't actually happen. Maybe I perceived this differently. I err on the side that I would rather be wrong than
Yes.
have one child experience what I experienced as a child. And it wasn't even the experience as a child, it's what it has led to for the rest of my life, right? I say this, my grandfather changed the very fiber of who I was when I was 3 years old. I will never be that person again. I will never be who God authentically created me to be, ever. Right? And so I'm going to err on the fact I might be wrong and I might look like the asshole and somebody might need to tell me on the back end that like I got this one wrong. I'd rather err on that side than not protect a child. And again, I think it takes courage. It's never going to be easy.
No.
I don't know if you've seen sometimes on social media, there's these sort of reenactments of what, some actor will like take a kid off the street pretty loudly and you watch the bystanders around, see what they do. And most of them keep walking, right? Most of them. And I just needed one adult hero in my life. Just one. I remember the time I was in the 5th grade and I painted this eye makeup, like eyeshadow and stuff on my eye to make it look like I had a black eye. And I went to school and they're like, I mean, obviously, right? It's eyeshadow or whatever. And they're like, what's going on? And I'm like, my dad, he hit me. So context, I shared with you, like my dad was my person. Right? Like my dad was my guy. But what I was trying to do in that moment in hindsight is I was trying to get anybody, any adult to say to me, baby girl, what is happening in your house? I just needed one hero. Just one. Right? And for whatever reason, it never really happened for me. It was always I was the problem. I was too loud. I was too emotional. I was crazy. I was the one that was lying all the time, right? And so rather than any adult saying to me what was going on, it was just I was the problem. I was unlovable. I wasn't enough. I was crazy. And that's what sort of led me on this path of addiction, really, in a lot of ways, right? Like the most important thing to understand about addiction is that substance isn't the problem, substance is the solution to the problem. I'm going to say that again for everybody. Substance is not the problem, right? If you just remove the alcohol or you just remove the cocaine or you just remove the heroin or the fentanyl, you still have the problem. 100% of us that become addicts use substance as a solution to something. So if I just remove the substance and have not fixed the problem, then I am going to literally be in hell, right? And for me, I use substance for all of the reasons I just said, right? Like I didn't feel like my parents protected me. I didn't understand my dad's alcoholism. I certainly didn't understand how my grandfather hurt me. I didn't understand how my siblings didn't particularly care for me. And there was a common denominator to every single one of these situations, and the common denominator was me. And that's why I used substance. And so I think it's important if for your audience, for anybody that's experiencing this, if anybody that you think you have somebody in your life that might be experiencing this, we just needed one. We just need one, right? We just need one person to advocate or show up or not let the adults in the room or the men specifically in the room be like, sit down and be quiet, right? It's like, no, I'm not going to sit down and be quiet. I'm going to advocate for children. I'm going to advocate for breaking family systems when we're talking about generational addiction and abuse. And it's hard work and it can feel very isolating and alone sometimes. And so I just hope that if you're in a position like that in your life, like reach out, find your people, find the other people that are experiencing what you're experiencing. And so it doesn't feel so alone and you can find community because it is the abuser's job to make you feel crazy. They can't continue what they're doing unless they make everybody around them feel crazy and wrong and small and stupid and all the things. And so if so if you're feeling that way, find your people, find other people that are going through this, find a community, and then muster up the courage to be able to break the chains of this thing.
Okay, to that, and I love what you said. I'll add that we know as the abused child, we can't muster up anything. We continue to silently cry out to
Yeah.
adults. You know, seeing me, I was sent this way when you met me. And now look
Mm.
at me. Hello, hello,
Mhm.
put two and two together
Yeah.
instead of asking someone what's wrong with you. Ask what is happening or
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Help
Mhm.
me understand. And then we can help in acting, get them what they need.
Well, and I think that the interesting thing about what you're talking about is when you're in a generational situation, it is so difficult. Like you're going to disrupt the whole axis of the way
Oh,
that this whole family goes, right? And
yeah,
even though there's abuse and trauma and all of the things, it's all this family has ever known is this axis.
yep,
And so, I know for me, it's like this one little being is like is potentially going to spin this whole thing off kilter. And so all the secrets and all of, just get into line and behave normally and stop acting like this, it all fell on me because I was the one that was risking this thing falling apart, right? The secrets coming out, um, and so I was the one that was threatening everybody else. And so when I was threatening everybody else, it immediately became a me problem, right? It was
yeah,
immediately, she's crazy, she's broken, what happened did this one, and I'm just looking back at it now, that little girl was just trying to survive. That little girl was just trying to make sense of her world when it didn't
mm-hmm.
make any sense.
Yeah,
um, and that's the problem with generations of this is that,
yes,
um, and this can be true for addiction, this can be true for abuse. um, it is like, it's like, somebody's about ready to invade your country and you've got to keep them out, come hell or
yeah,
high water, they can't get in. Right? And
yeah,
so that's what it becomes like. And it's, from a personal standpoint, um I don't question for 2 seconds why a lot of us choose substance. I chose substance. I was 29 years old, and I was actually diagnosed with a hemorrhaging brain tumor, and was given about 12 hours to live if they hadn't removed it. And at that point, I was prescribed opiates. See, I had spent most of my life saying I was never going to be like my family, and they all drank alcohol, right? So I was
yeah,
very aware of this alcohol thing. But when I was prescribed opiates, I share this with people. I was in my bed. I was high, but I was taking them as prescribed. At the time, I was about 2 weeks out of surgery. And I said out loud, as though there were another 15 people standing in that room with me, where the hell has this been my whole life? Right? Like, if you could just
yeah,
for a second visualize this child. I visualize like a Disney movie where this child is lost in the woods and there's wolves everywhere and there's this snowstorm and wind and they're just trying to get right. And then I took opiates and everything quieted. Everything calmed down. Everything, my nervous system was regulated. I felt like I was going to be okay. I didn't care that I had just almost died or that my mom didn't protect me or that my grandfather hurt me, right? Like in that moment, I was okay. And you wonder why people become addicted to substance, right? I had
Yeah.
searched that feeling from the adults in my life. I had searched this ability to like help regulate my nervous system, but it never happened. And so when I found substance, I mean, I was addicted to opiates emotionally from that standpoint long before I was addicted to them physically.
And that is a key point to how we all become addicted, and
Yeah.
where so many end up. You're struggling day to day. You're just
Yeah.
getting up some days. You wish you hadn't woken up. You
Oh,
wish
100%.
it was over because the how we live day to day, it gets tiring. It gets
Oh,
old. You just don't want to do it anymore.
well, and I think it's interesting. I vacillated between not wanting to wake up and even potentially considering suicide to hyper in fight mode, right? I'm going to take down the
Yeah.
world. I'm going to take down these people. I'm going to show you. I'm going to, right? And so I vacillated between those two perspectives. I think another thing that's really important to know about family units like this is it wasn't just about the abuse, because the abuse changes the very fabric of this thing. And so relationships are toxic, relationships are bad. Like it's just like that, like just saying that there was abuse doesn't even do it justice, right? It just
No,
changes
no.
everything about the fiber and dynamic of a family unit. And so I literally, quite literally, I would wake up one day and say, we're done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I have fought as much as I'm going to fight. And the very next day I would wake up and I would I would take on the world, right? I'm going to protect children. I'm going to fight my parents. I'm going to kick the, you know what, out of my siblings. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just this like angry warrior of trying to make sense as an adult of what happened to me as a child. Um, and, that's also not good for
No.
relationships, right? That place is
And
also not good for relationships.
and to that point, I and you and millions of others achieve miraculous things, career wise, educationally. People on the outside only see these dynamic,
Mm,
engaging, highly successful
yeah,
people, and they want to be us. Well,
yeah,
no. You don't, because the people who actually achieve high levels of success in things, have endured the most horrific abuse
Yeah.
and trauma.
Yeah.
So now, being on the other side of all of that, where are you in your thoughts and success over achievements? I heard in an interview today where the well-known male being interviewed, who's about my age, said is no longer about achieving success. It's about significance. What am I doing to help others? What
Yeah.
is my significance in this whole realm?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you asked that question. I remember I was sitting in my office years ago. So after I got sober, I started working in the treatment field, right? So I was working with the
Yeah.
addict, and I was in my office one day and somebody said to me, "Okay, you have two options, but you can only choose one." I was like, "Okay." And she said, "You can go back and have the childhood that you needed and wanted, right? The most blessed, beautiful childhood. You can have that." She said, "Or you can have your life today," right?
Yeah.
Because you can't have them both.
Yeah.
And I immediately, without pause, said, "Oh, that's easy, right? That is the easiest question I've answered all day." The answer to that question is I take today. I take my life
Yeah.
that I have today. And in
Yeah.
that moment, I realized with a lot of gratitude that the only reason I have my life today is because I walked through everything that I walked through. And in order to have gratitude for today, this sounds really wild, and there might be some listeners out there going, "This girl is batshit crazy." But
Yeah.
I have to have gratitude for everything that happened
Yeah.
in my life, including the sexual abuse, right? I don't have to like wish that it happened. I'm not like, "Oh my gosh, if I were to go back, I want that to happen." But I have to have some gratitude that I've walked through that in order to have the life that I have today. And it's the only thing that makes sense to me is to take those things, to use the shame that I had, the addiction that I had suffered, my ability to connect to other people that have maybe experienced something similar. The
Yeah.
only thing that makes sense of any of that is today to build bridges and islands and to change the stigma of what addiction is, right? Like the addict on the street corner is not the goal. The addict on the street corner is somebody that is using substance as a solution to something.
Yeah.
And it isn't until we start changing the people that use substance that we can begin to sort of help in a way, like contribute to the solution. Throwing everybody in jail, although in jail, obviously, I'm not saying that everyone who has a substance problem shouldn't, but we're not helping find a solution, right? And it is my opinion that other people, substance abuse, deserve the same freedom that I have found through healing from whatever happened to them that created a need for them to use substance. Um, so I don't have any of those experiences had I not walked through everything I walked through in my life. Being able to forgive my grandfather was the most moment probably in my life. And let me say this about forgiveness. If my grandfather were on this earth today, I am not breaking bread with him. I am not sitting down at a table about what your day was like and that's not what I mean by forgiveness. But in the moment that I forgave him, I stopped allowing him to my every being, my every thought, right? He had been gone for decades. He had been gone for decades, and he was still making decisions for me every single day.
Yeah.
And the gave him was like, you don't deserve to have that kind of control over me anymore. You don't deserve to have that much power over me anymore. And therefore, I release you. I forgive you. You see the little boy in you that was probably abused. I see the human parts of you. I think what you did was disgusting, but I can see and have some empathy and compassion for you. I didn't do that for him. I did that for me. And those are the things I think that as trauma survivors, as warriors, I like to call ourselves, we've got to focus on that, the past and the things that ultimately change the fiber of our being, and more, how can I use this to help individual or to learn from this, a lesson that I can learn, and not excuse it, and certainly not continue to protect and try to make these things stop happening. But he no longer deserved to control my life and to change who I was and to ruin relationships and to continue like addicts a lot because of my experience as a child. And so it wasn't until I could forgive him that I could move on.
That is absolutely key.
Yeah.
Taking back our power. And that happens one of two ways or in two ways. We face it head on.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledge it. What did we learn? And then release it, but also cutting the cord
Yeah.
to that person, to those experience this.
I
And ultimately, your point is stop being out of victimhood
yeah.
into our own power.
Well, and
I
I did that from this mindset shift. I did it from the mindset shift that then my initial mindset was that, right, that this was a me problem, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't lovable enough, that I wasn't whatever. And the shift was, this is a them problem, not a me problem, right?
yeah, yes,
Speaking to their character, not my character. This is speaking
yes,
to who they are, not who I am. And that was the mindset shift that in order to say, okay, this isn't you. I'm
yeah,
fine. Right?
yeah.
I have always been fine. You tried for me not to be fine, but I am fine. It speaks to who you are. And that was a really important shift for me as I began the forgiveness process.
I think that is key for all of us
Yeah.
in shifting, like you said, from victim to victor.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I
I
think
am done with your horrible acts
Yep.
dictating
Yeah.
who I am, what I am about. No, you're horrible, but I am not. I'm
Yeah.
actually stronger thanks to you.
Yeah.
And um now that we have gone longer
Yeah.
and I apologize, what are, if you have any more final words of wisdom for people who are just stuck in that quicksand of reliving, redoing all the trauma.
Yeah. I'm a quote girl, and there's a quote back here on my wall. It's by Joseph Campbell, and it says, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And I think for me, in that spiral that you were just talking about, right? I couldn't quite even get 1 foot up. Um, the idea was I wanted that treasure, right? I wanted peace and serenity and joy and worth and value and all of the things that we all want. But I was not willing for one goddamn second to go inside of that cave to get it. And what I learned once I got sober was we got to go in the cave, but we cannot go into the cave by ourselves. It's too much.
Yeah.
There's snakes and spiders and bats and all kinds of stuff in there that are so, so, so scary. And so if I were to give one bit of advice to anybody that's trying to find their way out of it, find your people. Find the people that you're going to walk inside of that cave with. I want to say this. When I the people that I was not going to go into that cave with was my husband, my children, my mom, my sister, my brother, like not because I didn't love them, because not the people that I needed. They were not my people, if you will, that I needed to go inside of this cave with. The people I needed to go inside of this cave with were like-minded people that understood the trauma, understood my experience, understood why the cave was so damn scary, right? It was a whole group of people that did not involve my family. These were the people that I walked inside of the cave with. And I remember for most of us, we do not feel worthy of somebody going inside of that cave with us. Like we'll go in and with anybody. You call me at 2 o'clock, I'm going inside your cave with you, right? You just like text me and I'm there. But I would never allow somebody else or ask anybody inside of my cave with me. And I think that that is the most selfish thing that we do. And I know we don't do it out of trying to be selfish, but we are, because we are in the sense that we aren't allowing ourselves to grow and we aren't allowing somebody else to be of service to us. Go in the cave. Like if you're before you go into your cave, start accumulating your tribe, start finding your people, right? And maybe that needs to be a therapist can start, the things that I do professionally, and this is mostly for addicts, but I know there are people that do this just for trauma. I do coaching calls where people from all over the country come together and we start creating of like-minded people that understand your shame and understand what it's like to have an addicted loved one and all of those things to start building bridges. It's so easy to stand on an island and isolate, but I promise you get to that treasure is if you go inside of the cave.
couldn't agree more. And you said that so
Thank you.
beautifully. The journey into that cave requires hand holding in tools to navigate it
Mm.
successfully. Also, no, you're not just going into the cave once.
Oh no. No.
You're going,
Yeah.
God knows
Yeah.
how
Yep.
many times in your tools and the people alongside you will change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah. I think
It's
I say all
okay.
the time, the cave is my life work, right?
Yeah,
I've been able to find the treasure and I'm very grateful for it. And I've even walked back out of the cave, right, to enjoy the sunlight and do all of those things.
yeah,
But you bet your ass I am at some point backing my ass cave.
yeah,
And the reason is because my worth, my value, anxiety and depression and shame will be life work for me.
yeah,
Doesn't mean that I'm not strong and I'm not a warrior and I, can still help people illuminate paths for other people, but this is just my life work and I have to be willing, not wrong. The people will change, but I always have to know. I need to know before I wake up buried in shame who's going in the cave with me in right now,
yeah, yeah,
right? Who in my life has been appointed to be a cave goer.
yeah,
And so when I wake up buried in shame one day, I already know who those people are.
yeah, yeah. Did you fall? We need to let go of the people who weren't willing to go into the cave, and we need to send those that did go in, if they can't go in again,
Yeah.
send them off in love and light. There's no angst or anger. Not everyone is going to go the length that you
We have
or that
we have
we
yeah.
have. I
We have
mean,
annual friends. We have people that are annuals and we have some people that are perennials. For those of you that aren't gardeners, if you know what I'm saying. So a perennial is a flower that blooms every single year, right? You put it in the ground one time and it blooms every year when spring happens. And then there are annuals that you have to literally plant once a year, right? They
yeah,
die in the fall and they don't come back. And we have those people in our life, right? Like
yeah,
some are perennials. Like I have some of my best friends that we were friends in high school at the age of 15. We went through life, right? We've life together. And those two girls are my perennials. They will be in my life blooming in the spring, come hell or high water. But then there's sprinkle of people that are been annuals in my life. But this is the thing, both perennial and annuals can come inside of your cave with you, but the annuals are just going to be there short term, right? They give a burst of love and light and beauty, but at the end of the season they're going to walk away, and that's okay. That doesn't speak to my worth or my value. In my opinion, it speaks to God doing work in my life, and he brings people that are needing to be there at the time, but not everybody is going to be there all of the time.
Well said, and unlike you, my gal pals that I met in high school went, you know, 4 decades with when I began going into the cave. They couldn't didn't want to
Yep.
do it. I was no longer that amendable person
Yeah.
that they needed me to be. This is just one of the things that y'all experience in your healing journey, and is why Jennifer and I are saying, find someone with experience to go into
Yep.
that cave with. You
Yep.
not only need that person for going in the cave, but the shit that will fall out
Yeah.
outside of that. It is a long, intense
Yeah.
journey.
Yes.
So there are many worthy people to help you, whether it's Jennifer, me, or others, or contact Jennifer or I, and if we are not your cave person, we know someone
Yeah. We'll
who
find them.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll find your
will.
person if we're not, yeah. And on that note, I want to give everybody my website. So my website's www.riseaddictionlc. The letters LC stand for life coaching. riseaddictionlc.com. And on there, there's a spot, I think it says let's work together, and then you can contact me. You don't have to want to work with me in order to contact me, but I just really, if you're out there and something we've talked about today pulls on your heartstrings, or you're trying to figure out, you're ready to go inside your cave, you just don't even know how to start, reach out, right? We can find resources. We can find maybe I'm the first person you've talked to that's like-minded, that have experienced some of the things that you've experienced. Like, today is the day. Why not today is the day that you start healing from this thing and taking your power back, and not allowing whatever the circumstances that have happened to you define who you are moving forward. And I feel so strongly that you gotta find other people to do that work with. If doing it by ourselves worked, we would have done it by now. right?
Yeah.
We would have done it by now.
Oh, yeah.
It's nearly impossible to walk through significant shame like that and pain all by ourselves. So please reach out. Please contact me, and I can find people in your community. I can find other resources so that you can start that work, because today's the day. Why not today?
Yeah. Awesome. And I know for me, I tried doing it alone
Yeah,
hundreds of times only to wake up feeling shame, fear,
yeah,
regret, self-hatred. It's a horrible cycle.
yeah.
You said that beautifully.
Mm.
Why not today?
Thank you for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to explore your own healing journey or intuitive gifts, I'd love to work with you. I offer psychic medium readings, energy healing sessions, and intuitive development guidance at shariroberts.org. And if you're not quite ready for a session, but want to be a part of the conversation in a supportive community, join my private Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. This is Shari Lee Roberts. Until next time, remember, you're never alone.